The sun beat down on the vast Kenyan savanna, shimmering off the endless plains. Amina Juma, a junior researcher with the Kenya Wildlife Service, adjusted her binoculars. The familiar hum of the Land Rover, a comforting backdrop to the otherwise quiet morning patrol. It was a routine day, monitoring a pride known for its elusive behavior, when a sound, sharp and out of place, tore through the stillness. Not the usual calls of the wild, but desperate, heart-wrenching cries echoing across the parched earth. Her heart seized. Amina urged her driver to accelerate, the vehicle kicking up a plume of red dust. The cries grew louder, more frantic, leading them to a scene that would forever scar her memory. Under the shade of a lone acacia lay a deceased lioness, her majestic form still, an unsettling contrast to the violence etched into the disturbed soil around her. And beside on her a tiny, severely injured cub, no more than 8 weeks old, whimpered, its small body shuddering with pain and fear. One of its eyes was swollen shut, a gash ran along its flank, and its breathing was shallow, ragged, a silent testament to a struggle it couldn't win. Amina felt a primal surge of despair. She pulled out her radio, her voice tight with emotion. "Dr. Omandi, I've found a cub. It's bad, the mother is dead." Dr. Ben Omandi's calm, authoritative voice crackled back through the static. "Amina, describe the situation. Is it isolated? Any signs of other predators or poachers?" Amina relayed the details, the cub's critical state. There was a pause, a moment too long. "Amina," Ben finally said, his tone firm, "we must leave it. Nature has its ways. Intervention, especially with a cub this young and injured, goes against strict protocol. It disrupts the natural balance." Amina's gaze met the cub's. Despite its pain, despite the near certainty of its demise, she saw a flicker, a stubborn spark of raw determination in its one open eye. It wasn't just an animal dying, it was a life fighting. Her professional training, drilled into her over years, screamed at her. Non-intervention, but a deeper, more profound moral conviction, something that resonated with the very core of her being, pushed back. How could she, a sentient being capable of compassion, simply turn her back? The conflict raged within her, a silent, agonizing battle. Let nature take its course. Preserve her career, her reputation. Avoid the potential wrath of the KWS leadership. Perhaps even the danger of handling a wild animal, however small. Or defy everything, risk it all, for a fragile life that was already halfway out the door. The stakes were immense, the choice searing. "I can't just watch him die, Ben," Amina declared into the radio, her voice unwavering, conviction stealing every syllable. "He has a fight in him." Against Dr. Omandi's strenuous objections, his arguments about regulation and the greater good, Amina cautiously approached the cub. She moved slowly, speaking in a low, soothing tone she barely recognized as her own. To her astonishment, as her shadow fell over the tiny creature, its whimpers subsided. The small head, barely able to lift, turned towards her, and it calmed, its shivering body settling, if only slightly. It was an anomaly, a tiny miracle amidst the tragedy. The rescue operation that followed was frantic, dangerous, and utterly improvised. Amina, guided by instinct, carefully wrapped the cub in a blanket, his tiny claws pricking through the fabric. Transporting him, severely injured and vulnerable, across the harsh terrain to the nearest veterinary facility was a race against time, a desperate prayer. In those harrowing moments, she named him Kito, Jewel in Swahili, a name born of hope and the preciousness of his flickering life. For the next critical 72 hours, Amina became Kito's unwavering guardian. She barely left his side, sleeping on a cot beside his enclosure, administering medication, feeding him by hand, monitoring every shallow breath. Her exhaustion was profound, but her resolve unshakable. Kito clung to life with a fierce tenacity, a jewel indeed. What quickly became apparent, however, was Kito's unique, almost uncanny response to Amina. When others approached, even the kindest veterinarians, he would become agitated, his weak body tensing, a low growl rumbling in his chest. But the moment Amina spoke, the moment she laid a hand on him, he would calm, his eyes finding hers with an almost instant, profound trust. Dr. Omandi, observing this, dismissed it with a wave of his hand. Anthropomorphism, Amina. You're projecting human emotions onto an animal. It's just associating you with food and comfort, nothing more. Amina, however, felt something deeper, a connection that defied explanation. Kito's physical transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The frail, injured cub that Amina had cradled in her arms slowly, painstakingly, became a vibrant, strong young lion. The gash on his flank healed to a faint line, and the swelling in his eye receded, leaving it bright and clear. The only lasting physical testament to his harrowing start was a distinctive, jagged scar that snaked across his left shoulder, a permanent reminder of the trauma he'd survived. Yet it was Kito's psychological development that truly astounded Amina. He was not just another rehabilitated animal. He was something entirely different. He maintained a profound recognition and affection for her, an intensity of connection that defied all precedent for a wild creature raised in captivity. When Amina entered the enclosure, Kito would abandon whatever he was doing, his eyes locking onto her, a soft rumble beginning deep in his chest. During enrichment activities, Amina observed behaviors that challenged her scientific understanding. Kito exhibited advanced problem-solving capabilities far beyond what was expected for his age. Once, during a simulated hunt with various rescued big cats, Kito, still a juvenile, seemed to subtly direct a younger leopard cub towards a hidden prey item, nudging it with his nose, then retreating to block another, more dominant older lion from interfering. It wasn't dominance, it was strategy, and almost orchestrating intelligence. At feeding times, he would often position himself, not to grab the largest portion, but to ensure every cub received its share, sometimes even pushing food towards the shyer ones before calmly taking his own. These observations sparked intense ethical debates within the research team. Dr. Omondi, while impressed by Kito's recovery, often raised concerns. Amina, he'd say, this bond, this intelligence you describe, it's remarkable, yes, but does it compromise his ability to survive independently in the wild? Will he seek out humans? Will he be too trusting? Amina grappled daily with the weight of these questions, torn between her professional obligations to Kito's natural future and the fierce, undeniable personal attachment that deepened with every passing day. Her heart ached at the thought of his release, yet her mind knew it was the only ethical path. She was a scientist, dedicated to wildlife conservation, and that meant ensuring Kito's return to the ecosystem where he belonged. But then there were the vocalizations. Kito had developed specific, low-rumbling sounds, almost like a soft purr mixed with a questioning murmur, reserved only for Amina. They were distinct from typical lion communication. The roars, the growls, the contact calls she knew so well. He used them when she first arrived, when she was leaving, or when he wanted her attention. He's not just making noise, Ben, Amina insisted one afternoon, her voice laced with an almost desperate certainty. He's talking to me, it's like he's trying to communicate in a way I can understand. Ben would merely shake his head, a hint of concern in his eyes. Amina, be careful. You're becoming too invested. It's still an animal. Kito's intelligence wasn't just in his problem-solving, it was in his persistent, targeted interactions. He would track Amina's movements through the facility, his gaze following her, seemingly understanding her routines, anticipating her presence. He showed an unprecedented level of interaction, not just for comfort, but almost for shared understanding. He'd bring her objects, batting at them playfully, as if inviting her to engage in a complex game. The difficult decision for Kito's eventual release, as protocol dictated for all rehabilitated animals, loomed heavy over Amina. It was an immutable rule, a part of her job, yet the thought twisted her gut. She dedicated herself to ensuring Kito's natural hunting instincts were meticulously preserved and honed. She oversaw rigorous training, introducing him to live prey in controlled environments, making sure he never associated humans with food. He excelled, demonstrating a predatory prowess that was both exhilarating and heartbreaking to witness. Finally, the day for the reintroduction preparations arrived. The team fitted Kito with a GPS tracker, a small device that would allow them to monitor his movements and ensure his safety in the vast wilderness. It was a bittersweet necessity, a symbol of both his freedom and the final severance of their unique connection. The day of Kito's release was etched into Amina's memory, a bittersweet torment. He had grown into a powerful juvenile, his lean muscles rippling under his golden coat, the scar a faint but visible badge of honor. As the gates to the remote conservancy opened, he paused, turning his head, his gaze meeting Amina's one last time. There was no defiance, no aggression, just that familiar, searching intensity. Then with a soft exhale, he melted into the tall grass, a shadow swallowed by the wild. Amina felt a profound, aching loss, a piece of her soul walking away. Yet she knew it was right. It was Kito's destiny. Months turned into years. Amina buried herself in her work, her career flourishing within the Kenya Wildlife Service. She became known for her dedication and meticulous research. But Kito remained a constant, cherished memory. His GPS tracking signal, a tiny blinking dot on her monitor, was a source of quiet joy. It confirmed he was thriving, establishing his territory, a true success story that fueled her passion. He was out there, free, living the life he was born for. Then 3 years after his release, the familiar dot on her screen started behaving erratically. The radio collar signal, once a predictable pattern of a healthy wild lion, began to appear in an unprecedented location, dangerously close to human settlements, bordering the very edge of the conservancy perimeter. A cold knot tightened in Amina's stomach. This was wrong. Lions avoided humans unless desperate or threatened. Local rangers began reporting sightings. A distinctive male lion, they said, was exhibiting strange behaviors near the research station's perimeter. It wasn't hunting. It wasn't displaying aggression. It was simply, there lurking at the periphery, sometimes sitting for hours, observing the human activity, then retreating into the bush without incident. Amina was consumed by a chilling premonition. This behavior defied all known lion patterns. Wild lions, especially successful males, wouldn't linger near settlements. Could it be Kito? And if it was, why had he returned? What could possibly drive a successful predator back to the very edge of human civilization? Her gut screamed that this was not a coincidence. Dr. Omondi, now the director of the conservancy, initially dismissed the reports. Amina, it's likely a different lion, he'd insisted, his tone weary. A young male pushed out of a pride, perhaps. They can be unpredictable. Don't let your personal attachment cloud your judgment. But the reports continued, relentless and disturbingly specific. Each new sighting detailed the lion's unique scar across its left shoulder, an unmistakable identifier. And the peculiar proximity-seeking behavior, never aggressive, always observing. The pattern was undeniable. This was Kito. The most unnerving report came from Mzee Kipchoge, a respected Maasai elder whose family lands bordered the conservancy. He reported seeing the lion near his boma, not once, but multiple times. Mzee Kipchoge told me, a ranger relayed to Amina, his voice hushed, that the lion has left his livestock completely untouched. Not a single goat. No lion acts like this, not if it's hungry. That detail shattered Amina's scientific skepticism. A hungry lion, close to easy prey yet not attacking? It was unheard of. Her premonition solidified into a chilling certainty. Kito wasn't just roaming, he was seeking. He had returned, and it felt like an urgent, unspoken plea. Without a moment's hesitation, Amina volunteered to lead the investigation. She had to know. She had to understand why her jewel had come home. The air hung heavy with a mixture of anticipation and dread as Amina and her small team established observation posts around the perimeter where Kito had been sighted. 3 long days passed, filled with the endless hum of insects, the distant calls of birds, and the gnawing uncertainty in Amina's stomach. They saw other wildlife, the usual rhythm of the savannah, but no sign of him. The doubt, the fear that she was wrong began to creep in. Then on the 3rd morning, just as the sun was painting the sky in fiery hues, she saw him, not a glimpse, not a fleeting shadow, but a magnificent adult Kito stepping out from a thicket of acacia. His mane, now thick and dark, framed a powerful face, but there was no mistaking the jagged scar across his left shoulder, a stark white line against his golden fur. Amina's breath caught in her throat. He was enormous, truly a king of the savannah, yet moving with an unusual, almost deliberate purpose. Kito approached a cluster of abandoned Land Rovers parked near the fence line, remnants of an old research camp. He didn't stalk or slink. He walked with an unnerving calm, methodically investigating each vehicle. He sniffed at the tires, rubbed his head against the dusty bumpers, his movements devoid of the typical wariness a wild lion showed towards human constructs. There was no fear in him, no instinct to retreat. He was searching. Then he stopped, his massive head lifted, turning slowly, deliberately, towards Amina's well-concealed observation post. Their eyes met across the vast expanse, a silent, powerful connection that transcended the wild and the human. Amina felt an undeniable recognition, a jolt of raw emotion that brought tears to her eyes. "It's him," she whispered into her comms, her voice thick with emotion. "It's Kito." A frantic chorus erupted in her earpiece. "Amina, stay hidden. Do not move. He's making direct eye contact, Amina. Dangerous." But their urgent warnings barely registered. Against all professional training, against every logical instinct for self-preservation, Amina made an agonizing, instinct-driven decision. She had to know why. This wasn't just a wild animal. This was Kito. "I have to know why," she murmured. More to herself than her team, and slowly, deliberately, she rose from concealment. Kito watched her, his powerful body relaxed, not tensing for an attack or poised for flight. His intelligent, calm gaze remained fixed on her as she began to walk slowly towards him, her heart thumping against her ribs like a trapped bird. The distance between them, initially hundreds of feet, began to shrink. Every step was a battle between primal fear and the profound, unbreakable connection she felt. She stopped about 50 feet away, an invisible line drawn in the dust. The tension was electric. Kito took several deliberate steps closer, closing the gap even further. He was closer than any wild lion had ever willingly allowed her to be. Then an astounding phenomenon. Kito lowered his massive head, not in submission, but in a gesture Amina recognized from his cubhood, an almost reverent motion, mirroring the way he used to nuzzle her hand, seeking comfort, seeking connection. "Amina, retreat, immediately." Dr. Omondi's voice crackled through her earpiece, laced with undeniable professional alarm. "This behavior is completely unprecedented. He could still be unpredictable, a threat." But Amina stood firm, transfixed. Kito settled onto the ground, his gaze unwavering, yet his attention now seemed to be subtly drawn to a specific area near the Conservancy's outer fence. His powerful nose twitched, sampling the air. Amina strained, trying to discern what he perceived. There was something faint and metallic, almost acrid, carried on the breeze, something she hadn't noticed before. If you're as gripped by this unbelievable story as I am, don't forget to hit that like button, share this with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single part of this shocking conspiracy. The danger is about to escalate, and lives are on the line. Kito lifted his great head, his amber eyes fixed on Amina. Then a low, resonant rumble vibrated from his chest. Not the soft purr of a contented cub, but a deeper, more complex sound, filled with an urgency that reached into Amina's very soul. It was his unique vocalization, matured and amplified. Instinctively, Amina responded with the series of soft clicking sounds she had used to soothe him as a cub. Kito's ears twitched, a tremor passing through his massive frame, a response of undeniable recognition. The profound, intelligent reunion that unfolded before them shocked all witnesses. Even Masi Kipchoge, stoic and wise, whose years had seen countless wonders of the wild, watched with wide, disbelieving eyes. This was not merely an animal reuniting with its rescuer. This was a conversation, a shared understanding that transcended species. Then Kito began to move. He didn't bolt or bound, but walked with a deliberate, almost guiding pace, turning away from the research vehicles and towards the Conservancy's remote fence line, which bordered a less traveled, densely vegetated area. He looked back at Amina, a clear invitation in his gaze. "Amina, stay put. Do not follow." Dr. Omondi's frantic voice pierced her earpiece, but she barely registered it. Trusting Kito implicitly, a trust born of years and an unbreakable bond, Amina began to follow him. The heightened danger was palpable, but a powerful intuition, an almost magnetic pull, urged her onward into the dense undergrowth. Kito led her to a secluded spot, obscured by a thicket of thorn bushes and overgrown savanna grass. Here, Amina's breath hitched. Scattered amongst the foliage were several discarded, unidentifiable containers, their surfaces slick with an oily residue. The soil around them was discolored, a sickly, unnatural gray-green. Her heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Then came the chilling discovery. Kito nudged her gently towards a small, stagnant pool of water, almost entirely hidden by tall reeds. The water's surface shimmered with an iridescent sheen, and a faint, acrid smell, the same metallic scent she'd detected earlier on the breeze, hung heavily in the air. Amina quickly pulled out her portable testing kit, her hands trembling slightly. The preliminary readings flashed red, indicating alarming biomarkers and traces of an unknown chemical. Around the pool, the ground was trampled, but not by animals drinking. She saw clear signs that other animals had approached, sniffed, and then deliberately avoided the tainted water. This isn't natural. Kito, what is this? Amina whispered, her voice barely audible. A horrifying realization slammed into her. Kito's strange behavior, his return, his unusual proximity to the fence line, his meticulous avoidance of Z. Kipchoge's livestock, wasn't random. He hadn't returned because he was hungry or lost. He was actively trying to communicate a specific, human-related environmental threat. He had come back to warn her. She immediately relayed her findings to Dr. Omandi. He was initially skeptical, but as Amina read out the preliminary data, her senior's voice on the other end of the line became tight with alarm. These readings, they're off the charts, Amina. What facility is operating out here that could be responsible? Initial inquiries hit a wall of bureaucratic silence and vague denials, permitting offices claim no knowledge of new industrial activity in the area. But persistent digging, late-night calls, and whispered conversations eventually led to a name, a powerful corporate entity vaguely connected to a new research facility just outside the Conservancy's legal boundaries. Amina's suspicions solidified into a chilling certainty. This wasn't an accident. This was a deliberate cover-up, an illegal dumping operation, or a secret facility, poisoning the land adjacent to the very wildlife sanctuary she had dedicated her life to protect. The implications were terrifying. Amina's discovery unleashed a torrent of resistance. Her impassioned pleas for a full investigation were met with a wall of polite but firm denials. Higher-ups, their faces impassive, warned her to drop the unsubstantiated claims. The veiled threats were unmistakable. Her career, her very future in conservation, hung in the balance. Amina realized the scale of the corporate cover-up was far greater than she had imagined, involving powerful players determined to bury the truth beneath layers of bureaucracy and intimidation. Through it all, Kito remained. He continued to patrol the polluted area near the fence line, a silent sentinel against the unseen danger. Occasionally, he would return to Amina's observation post, his presence a constant, unwavering testament to the urgency of his message. His eyes, intelligent and piercing, seemed to ask, "Did you understand? What will you do?" Driven by Kito's unwavering vigilance, Amina worked tirelessly, gathering irrefutable evidence. She deployed drones, set up hidden cameras, and meticulously analyzed soil and water samples. Her findings were damning. The illegal dumping was causing sickness, lethargy, and strange behavioral changes in other wildlife species, birds dropping from trees, antelope stumbling, their movements erratic. The symptoms directly linked to the specific biomarkers and acrid chemicals she had discovered in Kito's warning zone. The ecosystem was silently dying. The conflict within her was immense, a heavy burden of responsibility. The KWS, constrained by powerful political and corporate interests, wouldn't act. She faced an agonizing decision: remain silent and protect her career, or expose the truth and risk everything. The choice ultimately was clear. "This isn't just about Kito," she told Dr. Omandi, her voice tight with conviction. "It's about everything. It's about the land, the animals, and potentially the people who depend on this water." With a heavy heart, she made the agonizing decision to leak her findings to an independent environmental watchdog group, knowing it was the only way to force action. The confrontation was set for the polluted site, a desolate patch of land under the merciless Kenyan sun. Amina stood facing a phalanx of corporate representatives from the elusive company, their tailored suits stark against the rugged landscape. Beside them stood a grim-faced government official, his posture radiating complicity. Amina, armed with her meticulously compiled data, stood firm. She presented her evidence, her voice clear and unwavering, detailing the toxic chemicals, the sickness in the wildlife, the undeniable link to their new research facility. The corporate lawyer scoffed, the official blustered, dismissing her claims as sensationalism, her data as flawed. Two burly security personnel began to move, flanking her, their intent clear: intimidation. In that climactic, almost unbelievable moment, a deep, resonant rumble vibrated through the ground. Kito reappeared, stepping out from the tall grass as if on cue. He moved silently, powerfully, positioning himself directly by Amina's side, his massive frame a shield. His powerful, rumbling growl echoed across the clearing, a sound that spoke of primeval warning and unwavering protection. His intelligent, piercing gaze swept over the corporate and government figures, an undeniable testimony that stopped the advancing security personnel dead in their tracks. The silent, powerful animal, his scar a beacon of resilience, was her most potent witness. Faced with such irrefutable evidence in Kito's unprecedented, intelligent actions, the corporate facade began to crumble. The shocking realization emerged. The company wasn't just dumping waste. They were secretly testing a highly toxic bioenhancement agent on local flora, hoping to develop a new agricultural product. This agent, however, had seeped into the water table, causing widespread ecological damage and posing a grave threat to human populations reliant on the same water source. Amina's data, combined with Kito's miraculous return and his eloquent, wordless testimony, provided the irrefutable proof needed. The environmental watchdog group quickly mobilized, forcing government action and public outcry. Justice, slowly but surely, began to unfold. Amina knew the fight against such hidden forces was far from over, but a crucial battle had been won. Kito, having delivered his most profound message and ensured his guardian's safety, slowly turned, his powerful form melting back into the wild, a true guardian of the savannah. His secret mission complete. Amina Juma's journey began with a desperate plea echoing across the savannah, the cries of a dying lion cub. When she first laid eyes on the injured cub, barely clinging to life, she had no idea this moment would change both their lives forever. Against all protocols and professional warnings, Amina answered that call, forging an impossible bond with Kito, her jewel. This connection, initially dismissed as mere anthropomorphism by Dr. Omandi, grew into something profound and undeniable, a testament to an unexplained animal intelligence. Kito's unique vocalizations and unwavering affection defied every scientific explanation. 7 years later, it was that same extraordinary bond that brought Kito, now a magnificent adult lion, back to Amina, not seeking comfort, but to deliver a chilling warning. His return unveiled a heinous corporate conspiracy, a secret facility poisoning the land, threatening countless lives. In a climactic confrontation, Kito stood by Amina, his powerful presence a silent, intelligent testimony that shattered the wall of lies. His actions, combined with Amina's tireless investigation, brought truth to light and justice to the land. As Kito vanished back into the wild, his mission complete, Amina understood. The massive male lion, once a dying cub, was living proof that some bonds truly transcend the natural world, operating in ways science struggles to explain. The language of trust and survival can speak louder than any human deceit. End.